We're going to discuss the wonderful experience of spirituality in relevance to the real depth and meaning of it, not just in the one spiritual person's life, but in the unending challenge within a spiritual person who is literally living in a different dimension. They're close to God, they're with God, there is an actual God of the universe that is God. And people who are spiritual experience something so transcendent, so wonderful, so decent, so kind, so true, so enormous. It's utterly ecstatic and wondrous, and it has zero to do with everyday waking consciousness. The trick for a spiritual person is to bring all the enormity of that experience into a place where we can apply some of the expressions of the Spirit to the lives of those we love and care for. It's very difficult, very tedious. I could say time-consuming, but you're living in a timeless condition when you're spiritual. You're not here. You realize that everyone in the world is lost. There is a condition in the world, it's basically seen as a hell, as a very dormant place. It's asleep, it's sad, it misconstrues everything. In other words, all the people in the world don't realize that there's nothing to worry about, there's nothing to need or want, because in this higher consciousness, you're transcendent of need or want or desire, or of consciousness of the world, if that makes sense. You're happy without reason or beginning or end. You're free. You live an unstructured life that you can't discuss with anyone else because it's unstructured in terms of any concept whatsoever of being a person in this world or any world at any time. God is such a wondrous friend to those who are spiritual that, well, let's move right into the idea of it, that once you experience it, you are such a wondrous friend to God and to the whole world, but you work tirelessly to find ways to reach into the hearts and souls and lives and fabrics of those that you care for in the world, that are somewhat open, somewhat clear, somewhat kind, somewhat decent, somewhat free. It's a very open-handed process, and it's like a tincture of this, a tincture of that, and a pharmacist would make for a very specific medicine for a cancer. It's so scientifically balanced. But that's all you can give out. You would love to give the store away every time, but people need to be touched, to be empowered in very little ways in the beginning. If you come to a real teacher, a real master of their consciousness, then, and you are very spiritual within yourself, then you're capable of experiencing everything there is of God instantly. I remember when I was with my friend Baba Beatty in India, he was the first person friend of mine, that he was illumined and had this ability to just hold someone's hand and they would feel God and be free. And I met many, many people like that in my life, and that's what we're trying to discuss today, and trying to say how difficult it is for a spiritual person who wants to give all of it away all of the time. And difficult in the sense that, not that they're unhappy about it, but that they work so hard at it in a realm that's 1/trillionth of what they really feel, because you experience what God is once you're spiritually aware. I hope this is making some sense, but it will by the end. So we use these many, many gifts of the Spirit, they're called, to empower others. Empower them to what? Well, an expression of the divine that you experience as a spiritual person. We'll say my experience with my friend Baba Beatty. I had this all my life from birth. As I'm speaking for all spiritual people. We all are always aware of this, and then at certain points we become acutely aware that almost no one else around us understands it, and that's our difficulty. Because we're very contrite, very shy within, because we're very capable, not because we're afraid, or we just simply do not want to hurt or offend or push anyone, because that's not part of the divine atmosphere. Once you step into illumination, spirituality, you're endlessly, infinitely beyond this whole structure of this world. It literally doesn't exist. It's always been called Maya, the illusion, and the mystical religions, and all the religions of the East and so forth. And because it doesn't exist, it is an illusion. The Buddha said, you will visit the house of your illusion no more. In other words, after your first enlightenment experience, you're not captivated by the world. You're not captivated by anything. If you could imagine such a condition, it's so quieting. And you do everything to not let people around you because you don't want to push or offend or change anyone until it's time for them to want to. And today we're going to reach in a little deeper than that thought. There'll come a time that you'll want to almost forcefully change the whole world. And in fact, you will. Because that's what's in the air these days. You can't help this or that or the other without helping all of it. The rising tide that lifts all boats. So when you experience the enormous expression of the universe that we call God, your heart will be filled of a deep, deep sadness for the whole world. You won't be angry about this or that condition. You'll be sorry for everyone. No matter what they're doing, who they are, where they are, you just feel so sad about it. It's the beginning of this higher consciousness. It's not, there's no more issues. It's not political, it's not social. It's about all the hidden anxieties that people have not worked out within themselves that make them make a stand over this or that or the other. You look at the depths of their heart and soul and their very foundation of their being, which is tells them they are this person in the world at this time. When you know that the world doesn't exist because of your spiritual experience, if you read all the writings of all the mystics, all the teachers, all the of spiritual consciousness, the near-death experiences, whatever they call them, there's words like infinity used, infinite love, infinite kindness, infinite depth of bearing. And today I want to go a little further than just using the tools to help someone, to listen to someone. If someone that you love is in certain travail, certain pain, and you want to help them and they have issues, you learn to listen to them, or you learn to listen to anyone around you. These are very peripheral, but part of moving into these deeper states of healing. Someone's really stuck emotionally. If you can totally quiet yourself, like there's nothing going on, you have to practice this, and you can be there and they won't feel intimidated. When you're at like, you know, your end of the rope, you can't handle any more pain, then it's a tragic state. But if you're very quiet around a person like that, they will eventually say something. And then over a period of time, they'll express something. And they're not in abject failure anymore. They're still fearful, but they're expressing themselves. And then you let them express a little further, and they'll be anxious, but not absolutely scared to death. And then at some point they'll be angry and you'll be very happy, and then don't react to it, and they'll tell you, listen to them. So in other words, they're unloading their case. So they'll be a little angry, they'll be pushed, and they'll be expressing why they're angry, and then you let them do that for a while, and then they'll come to a certain sense of equanimity, and they'll feel okay about themselves, a little personal respect, and then beyond that you listen to them next time you see them about such and such, and they'll be almost borderline happy or fulfilled or calm, and maybe a state of cheerfulness, and beyond that, even a state of like real happiness. And then beyond that is a state of what we're talking about today, of spirituality, where you're actually in touch with, you've unfolded all your issues and you're aware that you're looking around and there's God fills all this space. It's a presence. It has nothing with your life or your pain or your trauma or your childhood or your adulthood. It has to do with what's really here, what the Buddha spoke of, this. You'll visit the house of your illusion no more. So you can train people not to be caught up in their own issues, and then you can train people through this expression that we're discussing today of spiritual empowerment, like my buddy Baba and many others. It's quite sweet. It's to be in that place where there's no borders or edges to its issue. It's like a waterfall of spiritual presence. And when you step into that, everything is okay for you. And then you'll look at the world around you and you'll be very sad and broken about it. But there's an unimaginable beauty to the concern, to the care, to the empathy for people. You're not caught up in any of the issues. You're just looking at everyone in pain. And anyone who would go to this place of the spirit, of the soul, you'll be able to communicate with. And you'll be able to do what my buddy Baba Beatty did and others done. Just hold their hand, just look at them and have them feel the divine presence. And this is what we should be worried about. This is what we should be thinking about. This is what we should be praying about. And this is what we should be aware of. I have a good friend, Alvin, that's in a little pain today physically, and he's the most spiritual person I know, and he's a cat. He's Annette's little cat here, and so from the time I met him, he was a wild cat from outside, but he had that complete divine experience in his eye and his sense, and he was attracted to Annette because Annette normally fixes people and animals, and because she won't quit, because she has this gift of empowerment. So wild animals and people come to her and she very calmly settles them down. And we all have someone like that in our life. We have to use that gift for those we find worthy in our experience, in our environment. We can heal, redirect, lift, inspire, empower anyone we want because there is a God, because spiritual experience involves being in touch directly with Almighty, everlasting, infinite God, our Father. He is God, and we are God's expression, and there's nothing wrong with us. If we're in this world at this point, we're here for a reason, out of compassion, empathy, decency, humanity. And there's also a sense of wonder to it because we can't believe this is here. I was very, very, very sick. I had several major diseases one time, and I was with my friend John, and he took me to his friend, the Dalai Lama's temple in Dharamsala, and I remember sitting there. The Dalai Lama was doing something that wasn't there for whatever reason, and I just used it alone. John brought me in there, and I just sat for 6 hours, and this unimaginable heavenly atmosphere that I've experienced many, many times in my life. But so when they talk about compassion for the world, and it's not because they're stupid or they're on the side of evil, they're not judging a murderer. You know, a murderer should be dead forever, yeah. But that's not the case when you're in this place. You look at the whole world as something very sad, very lost. You're not part of it anymore. You're not caught up in the day-to-day issues. You see that the whole sense of it is an illusion. And then once everyone in this room has had these spiritual experiences, so you transfer this, you give it, you empower, you love, you can give with a hug. It's falling in love is one of God's gifts to the Spirit, just to keep us going, keep us going. But our place in love is to cherish and treat the one we love as something precious. No control, no ownership. Just there for the other person. And there's a peace and a wonder to that. And it's deeper than everyday love. And things happen when you love like that that are different. You pierce through the subtext of reality into what we're talking about today, which is divine experience. You heal, you help, you direct, you correct everything. This is being said in a very delicate, ephemeral, light-hearted sense, because that's the beginning of knowing God. It's someone so precious that we cannot imagine it. God is looking at us that way every moment, forever, because that's what God is. And we wake up to that, and God actually gives God away to us. And that's why I say empower. Never think yourself as less than or other than God, and you can fulfill all the dreams and wishes and hopes and desires of a spiritual sense for everyone. We can all be Alvin or Terry or Carlos, who have the very powerful hearts and souls that never quit. It's quite wonderful to know people like that. It's quite wonderful to know you. To know me who isn't here, if this makes sense. Because when you become illumined, when you become spiritual, you're not part of the world you live in, which is what we've been discussing all morning here. There's just an openness, a clarity. It's called the Beatific vision, the vision of God. It's the vision of you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's everything right with you. If you're in the world, I'll go through the basics real quickly. You incarnated, as it were, for a reason. You birthed here because something in the universe was out of whack, and as divine presences, which is what we all are underneath it. And that's why I say we have to clear our own path. We have to climb that mountain by making sure everything in our consciousness is right. If we're the most innocent person in the world, if we hurt someone in a relationship, whatever, we check it all out. And it's again like those near-death experiences or feeling people that have passed. You don't relate to those experiences like you do to every relationship. Someone you meet and slap on the back, or, hey, how you doing? It's something different. It's very quiet and very precious, and these experiences happen all day, every day. I can see Alvin right here, right now, or whoever. He's a couple miles away, but we're relating on a way that it's timeless. It has nothing to do with our health today or anything else. There is a God, there is a wonderfulness about human experience that's transcendent of everything. But it's not transcendent of the human heart. The human heart is God. And if we're very quiet our mind, empty our case, then that's all we'll know. It's quite wonderful. It's quite you. It's quite normal and reasonable to be happy all day, every day, and to transfer this to whom we may, whenever we will. And the only pain we'll have is pain, like when my buddy had a problem a couple of weeks ago. It hurts the hell out of you when someone's hurting that's decent. But it doesn't change you or make you less, you just ride that tide. It's compassion, it's empathy, and when you're illumined, it's a kindness and a care that cannot be expressed. It's unimaginable compassion for the world. And again, not forgiving people of crimes and so forth. The world doesn't exist anymore. It is a hell. It's an illusion. This is in the text of every spiritual community that's ever been in this world. Sometimes they have less than desirable means for ending it for others, but when it's truly spiritual, it's out of compassion, and you're lifted just a few inches above the floor, above the ground. You never walk again on the ground. This is the experience of illumination. You're lighter than air. You're never your body. You're not your problems or the solution to your problems. And this higher sense of utilizing our gifts, of empowering those we love, is it's all we know. And because we're directly involved with God, all the issues of our life are cared for. We're not worrying about our salary or our boss or this or that, and even though we're inundated with the same things everyone else is, 98% of our psyche is involved with trying to fix those we love and care for in our life. And it's a very delicate issue, because we're also fixing people we've known throughout our life, and we rarely talk about it because it's so different than everyday consciousness. A spiritual person is involved with their family, their loved ones, as well as God himself every moment. And there are many different avenues and dimensions of this experience, and you're already not here. And you know by the time you pass from being here, this won't exist. Whether it's 200 years in the future, 7 years from now, it'll all be over. This isn't here. A friend of mine, Rosamond, was a lawyer at a government installation, and she had this experience that she had in the back of her car. This isn't here. And I was always wondering how she'd get through the gates and all with something so unusual in a very serious government place. Anyway, the point is that this isn't here. And when you're involved with God like this, your time sense will change, everything in your life will change. You're not worried about, and you act like you're normal to other people because that's how you communicate, but you're simply not here. And the great joy you'll have from time to time is running into someone just as spiritual and wonderful as you are. And that'll tell you all you need to know. Except this one fact that when we sit quietly to commune with God, although it's not a religious experience, we still have the humility before God, and we're very delicate with it. At the same time, we have to know that we will become everything that God is. But it's a very heightened state of awareness, of knowledge, of knowing. You'll become very intelligent. And it's not just giving yourself away day and night. It's with very subtle intelligence and awareness, lifting up those around you who are available. And at the same time, to be very, very direct, and this relates to the heart of today's message, today's empowerment, is everyone is available. When you clear your own path, and there's nobody home, you're not here anymore, it's just a godness, then you can help anyone and everyone, even the evil people. You can help them by removing them from the scene, because there is no scene, and there are no evil people, and there are no good people. There's just this isness, this awareness of God. And that's the portal through which we step to know God, to understand God, to be as God is. And we forget everything that ever happened once that door is open. become as God is. When we allow ourselves to be illumined, to care, to be kind, to be true, to this higher expression of the universe that we call God. Everything is brand new. There are no problems. There are no difficulties. It's been called a state of grace. In reality, it's a state of you. It's the original you. Before churches saw light, before names were named, before places were, before anything was. This expression of the universe, that's godness, that's goodness, was yours, is yours, and it's yours now. And everyone that falls into this world system has the same horrible experience. It's not pleasant. And the day you figure that out and stop needing or wanting anything besides this experience of God, then that day, an hour, and that moment, you'll see all things as they are. And there'll be no more pain, no more problems, no more fear. When we wake, we rise with Him. Not about words, but experiencing this wonder. This wonder is you. Let the world be whatever it is or says it is. Sit quietly alone with God, contritely, lovingly. Do, think, experience whatever you want to keep yourself going through the hours. And your church will be from dawn to dawn. You'll be here in the noonday hour, the late afternoon, the early evening, and through the night. There's a place beyond all human experience. It's the end of suffering. It's the beginning of you. The whole world is a temptation in consciousness. If we know that, and give it nothing very quietly. Listen to ourselves, like I said, listen to someone who has a disturbance or they're at final failure in their consciousness. If you just sit very quietly with them, not wanting, not needing, just being there quietly and aware of them, where you're simply interested, they will at some point open up. Try it with a loved one, a family member that seems gone, and it will work. It takes a lot of guts to do it. And as soon as it works, you'll understand everything that was said here today. You'll be like as God is. You won't judge or anything about the person. Maybe they did something wrong and they're ashamed and they're locked up. You see what I'm saying? So if you're just very quiet about it, you can be as God is and be so unimaginably intelligent and happy and free. It's called illumination, enlightenment, spirituality, nirvana, the beatific vision. Most of all, it's called you. There's nothing prohibiting us from experiencing God as God is. We simply walk away from the everyday, and God will be there. From time to time, he talks to us, and when he does, it's as though we're the only person in the world. Because to God, we are the only person in the world. And when you begin expressing this beauty, this tenderness to others, then you'll know why you were born. And then the gifts will come flowing and filling you. And you'll embrace all those you love fearlessly. You'll do no wrong because you won't be here anymore in your consciousness. That's what's being said. That's what God is. That's what you are. Again, we're here out of some kind of empathy. We find ourselves in the middle of this catastrophe, and we fix it. Someone's hurt, we fix them. Just a way of saying it. You have the power of God. You are the free expression of God. Just be kind to yourself and aware of your power. It's a gift and a power, but it's more than that. It's you. It's simply your emotional body as a spiritual presence. That's all you do. It's empower, it's care, it's love, it's give, protect. You'll live or die for anyone. It's a very strange place to be. You won't do anything stupid. But you'll do an awful lot of good. And your emotional sense of life will be transcendent of everything. And you'll be aware of God, the only one. And God will be aware of you. And there won't be two. It's hard for people to understand this. It's just an isness. It's just, you're involved with so many different dimensions and gifts and abilities. And you'll feel so sad about the people in the world that are lost. You won't be caught up in the issues. It won't matter what color shoes people wear or anything about them. What year they were born, or what century, or age. The whole thing is a lie. It's a construct. Study all the spiritual experiences of those we respect in our past, and the writings, the works, whatever. And you'll see this openness, where we step out into free space. It's like escaping physical gravity. It's quite wonderful. It's quite you. When someone was in pain in the scripture, Jesus didn't ask anything about them. He simply said, behold. And you'll find this in all the holy writings. There's just you have the gift to heal. You'll do it very circumspectly. You'll lift people up around you in very delicate ways, and sometimes it can be very rough, sometimes it's very pure. Sometimes you'll have visions of people you've met through your life, or what I call the teachers, they call the angels in there, and there's different dimensions. There's so much about spirituality that people misconstrue. As long as you know it's all yours, and everything that fascinates you is the devil, But everything you simply appreciate and being very quiet aware of, that's God. That's the dividing line. Don't be fascinated, just be present. Don't be taken away by anything that happens in the world. Achieve what you must because you must. And you'll transcend yourself in that. There's nothing to do or undo about spirituality. It simply is. It's simply yours. You're His. Be whole. Be free. Don't be taken in. And take all those you love with you. You're His, you're sent, you're true, you're whole. It's a higher state of awareness. We've all felt it many times in our life. Let's lock in with it completely. And then we'll be a workman like Carlos here and just fix people. That's the only reason we're here. We get nothing out of it. And that's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Skolta.